Live. It stars Over the Prairie with 8-time Minnesota Music Award-winning songwriter, musician, author, and historian, Paul Metsa. Check out previous show podcasts at kdal610.com. Now, here's Paul Metsa.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. A Happy New Year. You are in tune with the Stars Over the Prairie. And this, of course, your host, Paul Metsa, my wingman, Chris Allen. I haven't seen him since last year. Chris, do you have a good holiday?
I did have a good holiday, thank you, yeah.
Beautiful.
My mom is in town from Phoenix, and so I was able to spend Christmas with her and my aunt.
Well, beautiful.
Yeah.
I had, my big news was I adopted my foster dog, Mabel, that I've been fostering 14 months, officially into the family.
There we go.
With her brother, Blue. So we had a really nice New Year's Eve celebration with just the three of us.
Doggy champagne.
And we had hats. I found them a couple of little hats that lasted for about 45 seconds apiece.
That's pretty long.
But we had a good time. But we've got a great show to kick off this year. Towards the end of the show, I'm going to tell you about the 50th anniversary of my band, the Born and Bred on the Iron Range Cats and the Stars. We played down at the Parkway Theater on December 28th in a blizzard. But we're Iron Rangers. We made it. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But we've got two great guests on today. First of all, a woman by the name of Dr. Virginia Wright Peterson. She's a Ph.D. She has written a book that came out a few years ago called A Woman's War II, Women at Work During World War II. She's going to be at the Richard Bong Veterans Historical Center this coming Thursday, January 8th from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. And, of course, the Bong Historical Center is at 305 East 2nd Street. They do such great work over there. My friend Brianna Fiant and her crew, they really do a great job. They've got a speaker series, and Dr. Wright Peterson is going to kick that off. We're going to be chatting with her in just a little bit, and then after that, we've got Christy Rounds, who's the executive director of the Duluth Sister Cities International. They're doing a fundraiser on January 17th with our buddy Charlie Parr at Sacred Heart Music Center. We love the Sacred Heart, and we're going to have Charlie Parr on for the whole show, Chris, that morning on January 17th. But we're going to be talking to Christy Rounds, see exactly what the heck the Duluth Sister Cities International is all about, the history of the organization. Started way back when with Dwight Eisenhower, I believe in the late 50s. We'll find out more about that. And also, Christy also takes tours up to Machu Picchu.
Really?
Yes, so we're going to talk about that, something I'm very interested in. That's why she's kind of sitting there waiting for her time. That's why she looks so healthy. That's a lot of walking. We're going to hear about that. But first off, we are talking to a wonderful woman who will be in town on Thursday talking about her book, A Woman's War II, Women at Work During World War II. She's written several books, and she is from the Rochester area. She's written books about the Mayo Clinic and the history of Olmsted County and more. And we have her on the line, and we would like to say Happy New Year and welcome to Stars Over the Prairie, Dr. Virginia Wright Peterson.
Well, Happy New Year to you as well, and thank you for having me. I love opportunities to share these women's stories.
Well, I have been, we all know about Rosie the Riveter, and but when I saw, number one, I love anything that the Minnesota Historical Press puts out, and I've interviewed several authors with books on that imprint. But when I saw the picture on the of your book that graces the cover of A Woman's War II, Women at Work During World War II, I thought, man, I've got to have this lady on. Now, you tell us a little bit about your history, because you've also you've written several books, and you kind of do have a little specialty down in Olmsted County, which I have several friends from and fans, and my brother lived down there with his family for a while, and I had cousins, so I know quite a bit about the area. But tell us about some of your previous books, Dr. Peterson.
Yeah, and sure, please call me Virginia.
I will.
Yeah, so I started out, the first book that I wrote is about the women of Mayo Clinic during the founding years of that institution. We'd only kind of heard the story of what the men did to establish the medical center, but I had an opportunity to dive in a little bit deeper and found the stories of 40 women that did really instrumental things. I mean, the medical center wouldn't be what it is today without what those women contributed in just very meaningful and innovative ways.
When did the Mayo Clinic actually start? Give us a little history on that, because
yeah, sure. Dr. William Worrell Mayo started in 1864. He came to Rochester. He was appointed by President Lincoln to be a examining surgeon for the Union Army. And so he came over and did some of that, and then brought his family later and basically started a real medical practice in Rochester in 1864.
Wow. And so then when did the Mayo brothers, wasn't it? Was there two of them? Tell us.
Those are his sons.
Okay.
So they grew up in Rochester and went off to medical school and came back. And by that time, I mean, the big story about the history of Rochester and something that really catapulted the Mayo practice was actually a tornado.
Wow.
So in 1883, a tornado struck the city, and it just had a devastating impact. 40 people died, and 150 were seriously injured, and people were left homeless. It was amazing. But there was a congregation of Franciscan sisters in town, and Dr. Mayo reached out to them to help. They took injured people to dance halls and gymnasiums, and
wow.
And there was no hospital at that time, so they did that and asked the sisters, who were basically teachers. They weren't nurses, but they were flexible and adaptable. And after that, the Mother Superior, Mother Alfred Mose, reached out to Dr. He needs a hospital, and he doubted that. He said, we had this devastation. We've got to rebuild the homes and the businesses, and hospitals take a lot of money. But she was a very persistent woman. And she said, if we build it, will you practice there? And he said yes, but he never thought she'd really do it. But those sisters, they raised money by giving music lessons and selling crafts. It was kind of the bake sale approach to financing a hospital. And sure enough, in 1889, St. Mary's Hospital opened with 27 beds.
Wow, so, you've got to bake a lot of cookies and bake a lot of pies to get an actual hospital built. Well, that's beautiful. Well, tell us. Can I ask you a quick question? Because I had a good friend of mine. I'm very good friends with the family from Rochester, and John McCauley Sr. Worked at the Mayo Clinic at some executive position. Do you ever remember hearing that name?
McCauley.
Yeah, John McCauley.
Oh, sorry. For some reason, I don't.
Okay. Both his sons played hockey for I believe, Mayo. Right. But anyway, let's talk about the book that you're coming up to speak at the Richard Bong Center on January 8th from 6:30 to 7:30. You are going to be talking about a book that came out just a few years ago called A Woman's War II, Women at Work During World War II. Tell us, where was the inspiration for this book, Virginia?
Yeah, well, it actually came out of the research I was doing for the Mayo Clinic book. I had to, make a decision as to where to end the book, and I decided the early 1940s is when most of the founding generation had passed away or were no longer involved. But I came across this story of a woman at Mayo in the research areas named Julia Herrick, and she was from North St. Paul, and in 1915, she got a degree in math at the University of Minnesota there in the Twin Cities, and then she taught high school in places like Ely, for example. It was kind of interesting. So she taught high school in a few places, made her way back to the Twin Cities, got a degree in physics. A woman got a degree in physics at the university in 1919.
Wow.
And then she got a fellowship at Mayo Clinic. So she went to Rochester, okay? So she's doing research on ultrasound and sound, things I can't even explain, but
right.
Because it's physics. I don't know a lot about physics. But when the war broke out, the Mayo Clinic loaned her to the War Department, and she went to work with the Army Corps of Signal Engineers at Fort Monmouth in New Jersey. And there she worked on radar research. And they built things like mobile backpack kinds of radar units that troops could take out on their backs. And she did some really amazing research. And I just thought, wow, that's just so incredible that a woman, her role at Mayo Clinic was a biophysicist.
Yeah.
And we're talking, the 1920s, 30s, 40s. But then she finishes that work, the war ends. She comes back to Mayo Clinic and continues working until her retirement at age 65 in 1958. And what does she do at that point? She goes to work for the Jet Propulsion Lab in Pasadena, California.
Wow, you go, girl.
Yeah, and those late 50s and the 1960s, what was going on then?
Right.
At the jet, the space missions, right? Into the Apollo missions and all of that. So that she was just such an inspiration to me that it kind of opened the door to me thinking about what women did during World War II.
Man, so now tell us about how is the book structured? Do you have a lot of, is there personal memories in there, research? I imagine it's probably a combination of the above.
Yes. So when the people at the archive at Mayo knew I was sort of interested in this, they told me about another woman from the Virginia area named Ruth Erickson, who had come to do her nurse's training in Rochester, loved it, and she engaged with a lot of international patients, and it just gave her a desire to travel and do more. And so one of the physicians there was familiar with Navy nurses, and he kind of connected her to some people, and she joined the Navy Nurse Corps. And this was in the mid-1930s. So again, the adventuresomeness of these women is just really inspirational for me. But what happened with her is she was eventually stationed at Pearl Harbor. Oh. And so she was there when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. And to your point, she left an amazing narrative of what happened that morning when she was having breakfast with some of the other nurses, and they heard the planes come in. And the action just sort of step by step. Amazing that a woman from Minnesota, Virginia, Minnesota, was there. From
Virginia, Minnesota? Not the state of Virginia?
Right.
That's my hometown, Virginia.
Oh, well, So the Iron Range, so then I contacted the History Center in Virginia. I wanted to know more about this Ruth Erickson. And they said, okay, well, we can, they gave me a little more information. And then they started telling me about another woman, Blanche Shoquist Erickson. And then, they said there are a lot of women from up here in the range that were involved in the military, in the service one way or another. And Paul, they gave me a list of 300 women.
Wow.
And they had like narratives or bits of information on all of them. The women of the Iron Range stepped up in particular in so many ways. In the military, they worked in the mines, right?
Sure.
They were on the railroad. It's just amazing to me that the different ways that women from all of those towns up there contributed.
Wow, that's number one. I'm very proud of that. Number two, it doesn't surprise me. This is all very fascinating. Now, Virginia, did you? When you were doing your research, were some of these stories recorded on tape, or was most of it your research done with reading these sorts of stories?
Most of them were written. Either the woman hand wrote them out, or they were interviewed. The Minnesota Historical Society, among one, but a number of county historical societies, they have done oral interviews of the greatest generation, if you will, and they included a lot of women. So I was able to read through a lot of those. In particular, you talk about the Riveters, right? I don't know what your high school history class was like, but I didn't hear much of anything about contributions in Minnesota. I heard about Rosie the Riveters in California, but I didn't have any idea until I did this research that there were riveters in the harbor right there in the Duluth Superior area. The Globe Shipyard hired 229 women to build ships.
Wow. This is incredible history and so inspiring. I love history. My high school had, my 10th grade history teacher, Mr. Miller, was a little wacky, but he was a good teacher. Now, is there, Second World War, let's say is there anybody, and they would have been really old, that you met personally that was part of that war effort in the 40s?
Yes. I had an opportunity then to meet three women in person. One was an Army nurse who also did her training in Rochester, and she was assigned to be on ships going back and forth to Europe, bringing back, taking troops over and then bringing back injured troops. And she had some just remarkable, both happy and sad stories about talking with those soldiers coming back injured. Wow. And then I had an opportunity to talk with a woman, and this was sort of interesting, who was in Navy intelligence. These women, again, they were in intelligence in lots of different ways, some just even as spies. But this woman was in Washington, D.C., working in Navy intelligence, along with Vida Panikovar from Chisholm, who
sure.
Of. Anyway,
she ran the newspaper for years up there.
Yeah. She sounds like an amazing, like a force to be reckoned with in a good way.
Yeah.
But this woman, Helen, she still wouldn't talk about it. They were sworn to secrecy, And even though they were told, sometime in the 90s or something like that, that they could go ahead, that things were unclassified now. Helen still wouldn't talk about it. The third woman was a Japanese woman. She was born in Minnesota in the Twin Cities, but then her father had her and her sister, when the Depression hit and he wasn't able to take care of them really well, he sent them to his brother in the Hiroshima area.
Wow.
And she was actually in Hiroshima when the atomic bomb was.
Wow. It's funny. I know, growing up on the Iron Range, I know Iron Range women can hold a grudge, so it doesn't surprise me. They can also keep a secret. Virginia, this is just so fascinating. I want to talk, we just got a few minutes left, but you actually served in Iraq for the Red Cross, correct?
Yes, I did.
Wow, what was that like?
That was an amazing experience. I signed up to do that because, it was hard to really understand what was going on over there, right, from the news and things like that. And so I thought, I'm going to get involved myself. I was at Cobb Spiker near Tikrit, Iraq, for those in your audience who might recognize that. I was there for 6 months. I was assigned to deliver by sort of phone, if you will, by wire, emergency messages to troops when something happened at home.
Wow.
Whether it was a happy thing like a birth, but I'd say I delivered 1,100 messages, and I noted that 1,000 of them were related to deaths at home or illness at home or a missing child. And I really learned the impact of service on families, right?
Yeah.
The people at home.
Tell us real quickly now, this is Dr. Virginia Wright Peterson will be at the Richard Bong Veterans Memorial Center January 8th, this coming week on Thursday from 6:30 to 7:30. The Veterans Center is at 305 East 2nd Street in Superior, Wisconsin. It's going to be a fascinating chat. Virginia, tell us real quickly then, it was surmised when I was reading some of the background on this, that this is kind of some of the real roots of modern feminism had kind of started with these women working in America on behalf of, our efforts in World War II.
Yeah, so, women did everything, and that's, my book is kind of this case study of Minnesota, and they were working in the factories, right? They took over I don't want to say took over, but they were key to keeping the Hormel plant going that, made the Spam that fed the troops. And there was a big munitions factory in the Twin Cities, the New Brighton area, and they, created the bullets that were needed. So they did so many things, and they proved themselves. There are so many accolades of everything that they did. And but when the war came to an end, of course, they wanted to give the jobs back to the soldiers, but the economy was booming, right, post-war.
Sure.
And there were opportunities, but in most areas they were relegated back to the home, back to traditional roles as secretaries and things like that. So for some of them, that was fine. That's what they wanted. But others were quite frustrated with the fact that they had proven themselves in the workforce in so many ways, and yet were being denied those opportunities.
If you can't see Dr. Wright Peterson this Thursday, order her book from the Minnesota Historical Society. Once again, it's called A Woman's War II, Women at Work During World War II. Dr. Virginia, I look forward to meeting you. There's a lot more to this story. I'm very fascinated by the 300 women up on the Iron Range. I'm sure I can track down some of those stories through their families. and all very fascinating. Thanks so much for taking time, and have a safe trip, wonderful trip up to Superior, and very happy New Year, Dr. Virginia Wright Peterson.
Thanks so much, Paul. I appreciate it.
All right. Here's my song called Walking in a Woman's World. And then coming up, we got Christy Rounds from the Duluth Sisters City International.
Kitty Genovese was walking home one night. Stranger on Queens Boulevard asked her for a light. She said no, and he struck her down. As 38 looked on, now those 38 still hear her cry, since Kitty has passed on. She ain't safe in a straight line, she ain't safe around, she ain't safe on an airplane, she ain't safe on the ground. Just a girl, and I won't stop running till I'm walking in a woman's world. Karen came home from college with stories of where she's been. In this town 10 years ago, she was a homecoming queen. We won't hear those stories now, or meet her boyfriend Dave. It was a short walk from the coffee shop to the shallow grave. She ain't safe in a straight line, she ain't safe in a round, she ain't safe on an airplane, she ain't safe on the ground. Just a girl, and I won't stop running till I'm walking in a woman's world.
I'm Joe, and I had Z LASIK at Weiss Eye Center. The funny thing is, I absolutely hated buying a contact solution because I thought it was such a racket having to spend $15 on a bottle of contact solution. And that's just one thing, is just not having to buy that stuff anymore, or glasses or anything like that. For me, it's mainly just I like to hunt and fish and everything, and not having to bring that stuff along, especially in the winter when I go ice fishing and stuff. It gets a pain when I get to the end of the day taking my contacts out, and then if a rattle reel goes off in the middle of the night, I'm fumbling for my glasses to go and try and catch a fish.
Weiss Eye Center is the only clinic to offer blade-free Z LASIK in the Northland. To find out more and to arrange your free consultation, call 218-625-1917 today, or visit weisseyecenter.com for more information. Weiss Eye Center. See the best.
You're listening to Stars Over the Prairie with 8-time Minnesota Music Awards winner Paul Metsa on KDAL.
And I gave all of my money to the government. I don't know quite how I got spent, but the bank has come to my deed. Man at the mill can't see. Won't you let me get my feed for free? Ain't that the way it is? Well, I came down the gravel road and I traded my stock for a V8 Ford. That Ford turned on the four bolts and the tires rolled down to me. And that gasoline ain't free, but this clutch is wearing out my knee. Ain't that the way it is?
All right, you are listening to the great sounds of Charlie Parr, and you're in tune with Stars Over the Prairie. This is your host, Paul Metsa, with my wingman, Chris Allen. Why are we playing Charlie Parr? Well, number one, we love Charlie Parr.
And it's a good segue.
And it's a good segue because he will be playing on January 17th is a fundraiser at Sacred Heart Music Center for the Duluth Sister Cities International Organization. We happen to have and I'd like to add, Charlie's going to be here all show that morning from 11 to noon on Stars Over the Prairie. And we're happy to have Charlie back. He's made one appearance, and we talked to him by phone a few times, but he's going to be live in the studio playing. Then the big benefit for Duluth Sister Cities International, and we are delighted to have the executive director, Miss Christy Rounds, with us in the studio. Hi, Christy. Happy New Year.
Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you so much for having me.
Now, after we had the great interview with Dr. Wright Peterson about the women working for the war effort in the Second World War, you mentioned when we were on a commercial break, you've got a beautiful segue to that story that involves the Duluth Sister Cities International, the Second World War, and more. Tell us the story, Christy Rounds.
Yes, well, thank you so much. That was a fascinating interview.
She was great.
Oh my gosh, she was amazing. And I loved hearing about all those inspirational women during World War II. Interestingly enough, one of our sister city relationships started because of events that happened right after World War II. So the story of the Japanese Peace Bell, which is hanging up at Anger Tower, up at the Peace Bell Garden, started from basically its roots were in events that happened right after World War II. At the time, Mayor Johnson was mayor, and the war had just ended, and some soldiers from Duluth found this bell in a scrapyard. It was a temple bell, and during that time, during World War II, the second most valuable thing that a city could offer to the war effort in Japan, other than their own family members, their own children, was their temple bells. The temple bells were made with melted down precious heirlooms that were they were infused with prayer, incredibly sacred objects. So when a city would offer its temple bells to be used to melted down into bullets to be used for the war, right, that was considered like a huge sacrifice. Well, these soldiers took back a temple bell as part of the spoils of war that they'd found in a scrapyard, brought it to Duluth. It was hanging up at City Hall, and when some visitors came to Duluth, some educators from Japan, they identified that as their temple bell from Ohara, Isumi City.
Wow.
And so they asked that the temple bell be returned. And Mayor Johnson, remember, I mean, feelings are still raw as far as right after World War II, but he had that bell crated up, sent back to Japan, and there was a huge celebration in the streets when it was received. There's a beautiful documentary about it called Resonance on YouTube. You can actually look it up. And just if you do Temple Bell, Duluth, and Resonance, I think you can probably find it.
And what year would that have been,
that would have been, I believe it was like I think it might have been around the 1950 type time period. So It wasn't that long, after the war. And so they ended up... So years later, and I'm going to say what would be like now the 1980s, there was one of the kids who had been in the parade, became mayor of Isumi City, reached out to the mayor of Duluth and asked to become sister cities. Wow. And then he sent us a cast replica of the bell, which is what's hanging up at Anger Tower.
Wow.
So it's inscribed just similar to a regular temple bell, but all of the inscriptions have to do with peace. And the idea of that bridge building, that thing that was so meaningful to him as a kid, that then created this sister city relationship, which now we've enjoyed for, I guess we're going on 35 years now. And even this upcoming year, we will have a middle school delegation from Duluth going to Japan.
Wow.
I think there are 12 kids that are going to be going on that middle school exchange. And then we're also going to be receiving an adult delegation visit in late September from Ohara this coming year too.
We got a lot of good vibes going here on Stars Over the Prairie.
Yeah,
today. We got Christy Rounds and the story of the Second World War ladies and women that did such great work. And this story, now tell us, Christy, the beginning of the whole Sister City concept, Sister Cities International.
Yes. Sister Cities International started back again, it was kind of that post World War II, it was during Dwight Eisenhower's administration. So basically, he identified.
Like Ike.
Yeah, he identified that we needed to do a good job in terms of if we wanted to prevent these world wars in the future.
Yeah.
We needed to be able to create these relationships, person-to-person relationships. And another interesting artwork that came out of Duluth. This is an important thing, I think, for everyone in Duluth to be aware of, because it's something that we should be so proud of. Our local artist, Anne Leibovitz, whose father was the founder of Maurice's and the Leibovitz School of Business, she created an artwork called 122 Conversations. That artwork traveled to each of our sister cities, and it was all about it celebrated the 122 combined years of peacemaking efforts of Duluth sister cities at the time that she had, I think it was 2015, that she came out with this artwork. It became a globally, a renowned artwork because of the fact that it had traveled to all of our sister cities, and it spent 5 years at the hanging at the Hubert Humphrey Terminal. It was right after you checked in. It was this massive wall of tapestries. And it just came down last year. We put part of the display or that exhibit at the deck. And the other part of it is currently hanging at the State Capitol Building in the State Capitol Building Library. It's the entire discussion point of the entire library for the next year.
Wow.
So it's all of that artwork is hanging throughout the library, and all of the didactics and the descriptions of all of the efforts through the last, 30 some years of peacemaking efforts are documented at the State Capitol Building.
Now, how many sister cities does Duluth have?
We have 4, and we're trying to regain our sister city relationship with Thunder Bay. So that would make 5.
Okay.
We had
what happened there?
Well, you'd think it was something recent, and it wasn't. 2 years ago, they lost their funding, just as we lost our funding at the city level and reformed as a nonprofit. So now we're going to be working with their Rotary to reestablish that relationship so we can continue to have a sister city relationship with Thunder Bay. But we were kind of technically defriended for a slight short period of time.
What are the other cities?
We have O'Hara, Isumi City, and we have Rania, which is in the Kurdish region of Iraq, Vekwa, which is in Sweden, and Petrozavodsk, which is in the Karelian region of Russia.
Wow.
And then O'Hara, Isumi City as well.
Years ago in 1999, I met a guy. He was originally from Minneapolis. He was quite an entrepreneur. He went over to Moscow. His brother was teaching over there, and he went over and visited. And he found a place where he could buy hockey pucks for a penny. So he filled up a bunch of 55-gallon drums, like a handful, like a half a dozen, floated them back to Minneapolis, sold them for a quarter apiece, and made a little chunk of change. Went right from there going, well, I can do this. I can be an entrepreneur. Went right from there to selling high-end Cadillacs and American cars over to Moscow. Married a woman from Moscow. Ended up in Novosibirsk, where she was from. He invited me. By the time he got settled in Novosibirsk, he was running the wood. They found out he was very talented. He was running the wood factory for the city. He had started running the theater in the downtown. He had a bakery and 2 or 3 nightclubs, and he hired me to go over there and play. And so, Novosibirsk, Siberia, sure, I'm game, let's go. And so I got there, and it turns out Novosibirsk was the sister city of St. Paul, Minnesota. And it was so funny because it was kind of the same, longitude. So it looked, there was, birch trees and pine trees, and it really, the climate was pretty much exactly like it was in St. Paul at the time. Now, that's a little left turn, but Christy Rons, now, do you go on these trips? Are you kind of like the figurehead for the Duluth sister cities?
Yes, it depends. In an official delegation visit, yes. But for example, our middle school exchange is run by one of our board members. So.
That's fascinating. So now, can people how can they get involved to help the Duluth Sister Cities international organization?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we do have a membership program on our website, which is DuluthMNSisterCities.org. You have to put the MN in there because there's a Duluth, Georgia as well. But that's one way. And we also have fundraising events, like, for example, the Charlie Parr concert coming up. Or also you can also get involved with our organization like at a committee level. Each of our sister cities has a committee. And there are exciting things happening with each of the committees. So, for example, Russia, our sister city in Petrozavodsk, was selected because it was similar in topography to Duluth, and it's right at the shore of Lake Onega, and apparently it's like a dead ringer for Duluth.
Wow.
So anyway, that was part of the reason that we got involved with that with Petrozavodsk, but also deep historical roots as well.
It's so fascinating to see how much cool stuff is going on in the Twin Ports, and if you want to find out what is going on, tune in to Stars Over the Prairie every Saturday from 11 a.m. to noon. If you're a business or an organization that wants to get the word out, we've got really reasonable advertising rates, and you're supporting a great cultural institution that's been on the air for almost 2 years. Just email me personally at paul@paulmetsa.com. Mets spelled like the New York Mets with an A at the end. Hey, we're going to speak with Christy Rounds and learn more about the big show with Charlie Parr on January 17th at the Sacred Heart Music Center and more. But first, we got to hear from the people that keep us on the air.
I'm Sydney, and I had Z LASIK at Weiss Eye Center. Oh, man, camping and like being able to look up at the stars or like wake up to the stars or wake up to the sun and not have to kind of fumble around to see where my glasses are. So I'm looking forward to that eventually. It's like getting out and enjoying nature with sort of no barrier. Oh, the staff were really great. Yeah, it was really always felt pretty taken care of and very friendly staff, and they were answering my questions even if they were like really, really trivial. It's something that you got to have like a little bit of trust in this doctor.
Weiss Eye Center is the only clinic to offer blade-free Z LASIK in the Northland. To find out more and to arrange your free consultation, call 218-625-1917 today or visit weisseyecenter.com for more information. Weiss Eye Center. See the best.
Twin Ports, Iron Range, and Northwest Wisconsin. This is Stars Over the Prairie with Paul Metsa on KDAO.
And then I'm going to do a little bit of... All right, welcome back to Stars Over the Prairie. This is your host, Paul Metsa. We want to wish everybody out there a Happy New Year. In fact, everybody listening up there from the Iron Range up to Canada on KDAH 650 AM, and that is broadcasting out of Hibbing, Minnesota. Of course, the hometown of Bobby Dylan, Gary Puckett, Roger Maris, Kevin McHale, Gino Palucci, and more. It's a rockin' little town, 22 miles west of my hometown of Virginia.
Don't forget Phil Vercoda.
Phil Vercoda's from Hibbing?
No, Phil Vercoda's from here. We got to mention him because he was on the team. And then there's Ba Harrington, and they're celebrating the 1980 team. So I just wanted to mention a few of the guys that were on the Olympic team.
I went to Tommy Williams Hockey School, Phil Vercoda. I went to high school with Joe Harrington, Ba Harrington's brother.
All right.
But used to play hockey against Ba back in the day. Before I realized I don't think I'm as good as these other guys. Then it turns out I was scrimmaging as a young hockey player against the Carlson brothers.
Wow.
Which you know is the Hanson brothers.
Yeah.
From the greatest sports movie of all time, Slapshot, and Ba Harrington and the rest. Well, good. We got to get some of those guys in.
Yes.
Because I love hockey. Anyway, we've got Christy Rounds with us. And Christy, you were telling us before we had to go to break about something very fascinating.
Yes, I was just mentioning our relationship with Petrozavodsk. A lot of people ask, why do we still have a sister city in Russia? And the truth is that we are one of the last remaining sister city relationships in Russia. And the reason we maintain it is because our partners use it as their form of protest. And so one of the things that they are protesting is that Russia decriminalized domestic abuse, which means that if someone is abused, they cannot be penalized by the government, or basically they can't be arrested. So we are working with the U.S. State Department. Duluth Sister Cities is working with the Duluth Domestic Abuse Intervention Program to introduce the Duluth model for dealing with domestic abuse in Russia. And so they are coming up with basically a power and control wheel that is unique to domestic abuse in Russia. And it is a non-punitive solution to domestic violence. So this is probably one of the most impactful programs that we're currently working on.
Explain a little bit more about that. I'm not quite sure I'm clear. So who doesn't get penalized? The abuser?
The abuser. So a woman can show up, if she shows up at the hospital and she actually has a broken bone, they might go after the husband, but they might not. Sometimes it takes a second offense in order to even have any type of a consequence of any kind. So it's considered a family matter. That's the best way to put it. So they say domestic abuse is a family matter, and according to the Russian Orthodox Church, if it's a family matter, the government needs to stay out of it. And so because of that, domestic abuse was decriminalized in Russia.
But don't we want to criminalize those guys? I mean, don't we want to go after the abusers?
Well, that's what you'd think. But in this case, what we're doing is working within the parameters of that dynamic, and understanding that the government will not intervene. So we need to address domestic violence from a very grassroots perspective, which is to address it at the family level, which is working with the men directly and helping them to understand what are the dynamics? What are you hoping to accomplish? Is what you're doing accomplishing what you're hoping to accomplish? And so that is part of what we're doing. Is we're actually the men as peacemakers here in Duluth. That is kind of their mission. That's how they approach domestic violence. And so we're implementing something similar in Russia, in northern Russia.
When I was over there for 7 days. I played. There was for 4 or 5 nights. There was a blues band, and I walked into this club. It's called the New York Times. And Chris, you would appreciate this. I walked in, and it looked like these guys, they were all like 20s and 30s years old, singing Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf. They were like white guys from Chicago, right? And so I brought my guitar, and I was itching to sit in. And on the break, I went and introduced myself. None of them spoke English. They all sang phonetically. It was just phenomenal. But how well they played. But I played at an orphanage when I was over there. And I'm telling you what, I should put some pictures up on paulmetsa.com, because there was about 25 or 30 of them. You know, there's a lot of alcoholism and drug use. And so all these kids came from broken homes. But man, they were so sweet, and you just wanted to take them all home. God, I still think about it now. God, that would have been, 26 years ago. They're all, in their 30s now. But yeah, it was beautiful. The people were great, though. It was funny when I play a lot of my own songs, but when I played Johnny Cash, everybody sang along.
Wow.
In English.
Wow. That's amazing.
So tell us a little bit about the fundraiser. We've got Charlie Parr.
Yep.
And tickets can be had. What is the website?
Well, if you go to Sacred Heart's website, so Sacred Heart, I believe it's sacredheart.org, then you can get the link to the event page. John Edwards will also be opening for Charlie Parr.
John's been on the show. Yeah. John's great.
Yeah, he's a local guy. And they're also going to have a visual production company out of Minneapolis called Altruit. They have done visual projection behind Charlie Parr's concerts before, but it's the first time they've ever done anything at Sacred Heart.
Cool.
They're going to incorporate some of Anne Leibovitz's 122 Conversations, some of the images from her her artwork even as it's currently hanging at the state capitol. And they're going to project that up on a screen behind Charlie as he's performing too.
Wow. That Leave It to Charlie Parr to be totally plays his music that was inspired by the 20s and 30s country blues guys, but being totally up to date with his modern presentation. Before you go, Christy Rounds, I've got to ask you about, how do you pronounce Machu Picchu?
Machu Picchu, yeah.
And you take people on tours.
Yes.
When did that start?
Oof.
Oof is right.
I started traveling to Peru in the late 1990s, and then through that ended up starting a business through our I used to have an outdoor store, so Adventure Bound was the name of the outdoor store, and then we ended up with I ended up with another travel business through the years, and it focused on high altitude hiking up in the Andes. And so, yeah, I usually go at least once a year, sometimes twice a year, to Machu Picchu to travel. And
we've just got a couple minutes left, but where do you start, and how long is the trek to the top of the mountain?
So it depends on what route we take, which is determined by what group I have.
Yeah.
So it can either be where we do some side trips, hiking up mountains. It's sometimes we'll get to as high as 17,000 feet. So it's a really high altitude. And even Cusco's 11,000 feet. So it's all high altitude. But we'll sometimes just do some day trips, but other times as long as 5 days to come, we follow a section of the Inca Trail and go. There's a trek called Sakantai. The Sakantai trek then comes into Machu Picchu.
Do you ever see snakes?
No.
Really?
I don't believe there are any that high, actually.
Well, Chris, would you do that? Would you make that trek?
No. Not because it's not beautiful or anything. I'm not that kind of person, and I probably I'm klutzy, so I would probably fall somewhere and kill myself. We don't want you to fall.
Yeah, because we need you here every Saturday on Stars of the Prairie.
By the way, I just wanted to make a correction. It's sacredheartmusic.org.
Oh, thank you.
And then you can get your tickets through a link on their page, or go to Eventbrite or Vivid Seats.
Well, Christy Rounds, thank you so much. We look forward to, we'll keep telling people about this great event on January 17th. But you've been a wonderful guest, and it's a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you so much, Paul. I appreciate it.
All right. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you, too.
Chris, I got to tell you about the 50th anniversary of Cats Under the Stars.
Okay.
We had 3 of the original members. Drummer Joe Loma from Ely Lake, Minnesota, came in 77, started playing with us. Alloy Creef, who plays with the Big Woo, started playing with the Cats in 82. Jimmy Anton, who did 10 years with Johnny Lang after I hired him for his first gig. We all got together, blew the roof off with our buddy Tommy Lieberman and Sonny Earl at the beautiful Parkway Theater. Lovely 1930s era theater that they rehabbed. They've got a great music lineup. I highly recommend anybody that's down in the cities to take care of it. Thanks for listening to Stars Over the Prairie. We're here every Saturday from 11 a.m. to noon. If you're a business that wants to get word out to a committed audience, email me at paul@paulmetsa.com. And like my dad used to tell me, remember to be kind and make someone happy.
And I wish I could see